When people take personality tests, the results are typically usually positive or at best neutral. There's nothing particularly disappointing about your Myers-Briggs score. Thinkers and perceivers, for example, are relatively neutral terms. They just describe how you behave. But not all traits are positive. Some traits are seen as negative and generally attributed to people who do negative things. The dark triad looks at these negative traits. Psychologists have developed tests to determine whether or not these traits exist and potentially can help you spot dangerous people. So, what is the dark triad? The dark triad is a relatively new concept in the world of psychology. The term was created in 2012 by a pair of psychologists named Paulus and Williams. In their research, these psychologists identified 3 personality traits that were most prominent in dangerous people who are more likely to commit crimes. Like most personality traits, the dark triad exists in all people to certain degrees. Everyone has some dark triad qualities. In fact, researchers show that some degrees of dark triad indicate a potentially good business leader or a bright person. But the people who are more dark than others are more likely to act in ways that hurt others. So, what are these scary dark triad traits? They are narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. So, let's talk about each one of those in depth. The first one is narcissism. Narcissism is an inflated sense of self. Narcissists usually believe that they are a superior person to others, and they require people constantly to recognize them for their superiority. They don't just crave attention or work to earn praise. They expect this attention or praise, even if they don't actually accomplish much. As a result of these beliefs, narcissists will insist on having things that meet their standard. They may use dishonest means to actually get what they want, and narcissists will use their poor behavior because they believe they deserve the things that they want. The second one is psychopathy. Now, psychopathy is one of the most difficult traits to spot, but also one of the most dangerous traits to have. Psychopaths have little empathy or a conscience. They can commit heinous crimes against others without feeling any sense of remorse, feeling bad about anything that they've done. People have a really hard time pointing out a psychopath because generally they will also be excessively charming. For example, Ted Bundy is a classic psychopath. While people believe that he was really charming and kind on the outside, he never seemed to show remorse for brutally killing over 30 women in the 1970s. Researchers have been studying psychopaths for longer than they have been studying the dark triad. In fact, in the 1970s, Robert Hare developed the Hare Psychopathy Checklist to try to diagnose psychopathy. The checklist looks at a person's tendencies to be or not to be impulsive, empathetic, or delinquent. A score of 30 on the Hare Psychopathy Checklist denotes a psychopath. Just to let you know, Ted Bundy scored a 39. And lastly is Machiavellianism. It's a pretty long word, but it comes from someone's name. Machiavelli was an Italian diplomat and author from the 1500s. He is most known for writing a book called The Prince. Now that's a book that offers advice on how politicians should rise to the top by any means necessary. In the book, he says, "A prince never lacks good reasons to break his promise." That gives you kind of an idea of what this trait is about. Even if a leader is not generally dishonest or a manipulative person, he says that they should use these tactics in order to get to power and a position that they desire. So people who score high on Machiavellianism scale haven't just taken that advice. They live by that advice every day. Now, if you know someone like this, it will be painful for you. These types of people are master manipulators, and they know what to say and what to do to get their way. Now, just like psychopaths, these people can be very charming on the outside, but only as a means to take advantage of others. Now, also like narcissists, they think that they deserve the things that they want, and they use that to justify their terrible actions. In Paulus and Williams' original article about the dark triad, they argue that when it comes to these traits, their only common Big Five correlate was disagreeableness. Later studies have also shown connections between the Big Five and the dark triad. For example, there is a significant positive correlation between Machiavellianism and neuroticism, and also a significant negative correlation between Machiavellianism and conscientiousness. This means most people who are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get their way are also not very OCD. This makes sense because most people with OCD like to follow rules. They like to stay orderly. They don't like to stray away from the normal path, which is what criminals do. Now, there is also a significant positive correlation between narcissism and extroversion. The more you care about yourself, the more you seem to want to talk to other people, which is actually a little interesting to me. There's also a significant negative correlation between psychopathy and conscientiousness. If you're thoughtful and orderly, you probably care about others too. Now, the same research conducted in 2011 at the University of Western Ontario suggests that the presence of these dark triad traits is largely genetic. This means that nature, rather than nurture, is more likely to cause these traits. So trauma or environmental factors can cause people to commit crimes and do bad things, but the tendency to commit crimes without remorse and to try to manipulate people is largely inherent. And if you have those traits, you can say that you probably got them from your parents. Now, if dark triad traits were truly genetic, this means further research can help us actually identify potentially dark and dangerous people before they actually start to act out and cause harm to others. Maybe we can even change them for the better. So it only takes a couple minutes to take the short dark triad test. And like most personality tests, this test comes with a few statements that you may agree or disagree with. And don't worry about how you score whenever you take the test, just try to stay honest. Now, if you want to take this test, I have actually developed a 3-in-1 personality test that will tell you all kinds of things about yourself. If you want to take that quiz, the link is in the description. I also recommend giving this test to your friends and sharing answers. Now, if any of your friends score over 60 on the results of the dark triad test, consider this a warning sign. The scores can indicate that your friends are manipulative, dishonest, or maybe don't have a high interest in your own well-being. In other words, they might not make such a great friend, and you might want to keep them at a longer distance. I also recommend not living with anyone above the 40 percentile, and do not marry anyone over 20, or your life will be painful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and feel free to watch some of the other videos in this personality series. I've worked very hard on it. And if you want to learn more about your own personality, again, you can take that free personality quiz in the description below. It's completely free. You don't even have to enter your email. And I'm going to try to predict some things about you, like your political stances, your relationship style, and even your health. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you learned something.